thought I was ready. Hold on.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Enlarge that. All right. So I'm gonna we were looking for leadership topics when we were thinking about this, and I really felt like civility is a leadership skill that we are sorely in need of these days. So I wanted, I dusted off an old presentation, kind of spruced it up a bit. We used to do a big civility thing at Valencia, and I want to share it with you guys today. So yeah, here we go. If I can get things going. All right. So this is kind of a little tougher to do within online versus in person, but I'm curious, and just put in the chat what civility means to you guys. What do you think of when you think of civility? See, respecting each other's differences, being diplomatic, peace in the community, good ethics. Courtesy, good conduct. So everybody's got a pretty good idea. I see respect a couple of times, conflict resolution, all pieces of civility. The actual definition of civility is a formal politeness and courtesy in behavior or speech. So that's your dictionary definition. But civility, there's much more that goes into it. It's related to a lot of different issues, and depending on who you talk to, they may define civility in very different ways. And there's a word cloud, and a lot of the words you guys used are on there. Wallace.org has a definition of small actions that lead to respect for others and skillfully applied behaviors that lend to positive working relationships and environments. And I think that's an important perspective on civility, and something that I see a real lack of, especially in leadership these days, is those behaviors that lead to positive working relationships and environments. You see a lot more discord, a lot more disagreement, and a lot more argument these days than you see that cooperation. So in thinking about that, I think of incivility versus civil disobedience, because they're a very different process. When you really think about incivility, you're thinking of things like bullying, harassment, biasness, ignoring others, disruptive, dismissive behaviors. Versus civil disobediences are like the example here is like Martin Luther King described it, as a method of protest that one doesn't seek to defeat or humiliate their opponent, but to win their friendship and understanding. But we seem to work from the opposite of that these days, and you see it in politics all the time. And it doesn't matter whether what side of the aisle you're on, where you come from. They all do the same kind of bashing and try to subtly undermine the other side. So we need to get back to that. Let's win over our opponent through friendship and understanding, and not beat them into submission. It's just again, you see in the news all the time, and near the last bullet on the incivility side, never before the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, have you really seen in this country where, politicians are getting accosted in restaurants, and, people are berating each other, or because of their political beliefs or their religious beliefs? Well, the religious beliefs have always been there, but that it's gotten so divisive. It just seems to be getting worse than better. So what are the consequences of incivility? Looking at it through the lens of work, of employment, we've got some statistics over here. 47% intentionally decrease the time spent at work. The quality of work decreases. People lost work time avoiding the person that wasn't civil. It basic bottom line is it affects productivity, and affects the bottom line of a business. It causes employees to leave. It causes employees not to work hard. So when you flip that to thinking about leadership in an organization like Phi Theta Kappa, and how you guys work together. So if you have a contentious relationship on your board or within your chapter, what you're not recognizing is how it's affecting the others that are seeing that. When they see the lack of civility, if they see people not getting along, they're not going to want to come to meetings. They're not going to want to take part in events, and that's going to hurt your chapter. That's going to hurt your engagement. So it's really important to build a practice of civility within your leadership structure, if your officers on the board, and to really strive to have that within your chapter. It'll make your chapter that much more successful. All right, I'm going to show you a little video here. It's a little dated. This is Rutgers University did this big study on civility a few years back, and but I think the video still holds up. I mean, what they're talking about still relates. So let's watch this for a few minutes.
Civility is good table.
Civility means
To take small. Civility is to help with. Civility is just how to use the spoon and eating soup easily without noise.
Civility is an important concept that impacts everyone in society, something that you have to learn over time, something that people teach you. Best practice I'd say would be with experience, just being around other people, knowing how to talk to people.
persons of opposite sex address the woman first. Now, how about persons of the same sex?
It's necessary to talk about civility because civility encompasses so many different things related to human relations. Something as simple as saying thank you or holding the door open. Instead of charging on ahead, it's a much bigger concept. Abiding by the golden rule, the impact of technology.
In class, personally, I do not text.
Kids just, they interrupt, they talk, they'll play with their phones, they'll distract everyone else that's around them. Yes, I text the entire class.
No, I don't text or go on in class.
If a teacher catches you, it's kind of like one of those awkward respect things.
All right, class, stop typing, please.
Sometimes if you get into a very contentious issue in a classroom, students actually will not participate in the discussion, even though they have strong opinions, because they're afraid of offending other people.
Classroom is a security space which is not open to just anyone. You actually have to be recognized by the institution to be part of that.
I believe the classroom is a public space. Just because the sense that you're around a lot of people and you don't act the same way you would by yourself in a private area. I think professors want the classroom to be a public space.
but I think students end up making, feeling that it's more of a private space.
The classroom is a private space.
I just have an overwhelming feeling that I'm in public while in class.
If you're gonna come there and watch a movie, why would you come at all?
The last few minutes of class, when the students are closing up their books and their laptops and whatever to indicate that class is over,
They're telling the professor when they want to end class as opposed to the other way around.
it's kind of disrespectful. And of course, the professors feel the same way too, I'm sure.
In my classes, they say, stop, I'm not finished yet. There's still a few more things I want to go over. But at the same time, I'll also say, I promise you I will finish before the end of the class. If I do not, you have my permission to just stand up and walk out. It's the same thing that any of us have if you're on a bus or a train and someone pulls out a cell phone, has a very loud conversation for everybody to hear.
No point for you to be talking on the phone while I'm trying to have a nice peaceful bus ride to my class. No one really cares about what you had for lunch or dinner. Some people are just rude.
We come here to hand out pamphlets so people can know what we're into and stuff. We come across different people. Some people, are interested. Some people just ignore us. I'm expecting that. So when I come, I'm not disappointed. I just really care for those who actually do receive it.
We encounter a lot of behaviors here. We have a lot of people coming from different places, all the students. Some of them are rude, some of them are polite. They come over here hungry, very hungry. But the munchies.
I cut younger people some slack. I mean, when you're young, you have so many prejudices. That's part of growing up. You have to unshed them. But people my age, if you're that way, I'm sorry for you. Really. I can't work with you. Not only can I not work with you, I won't work with you. Because there's too many people out here I can work with.
The United Black Council serves the liaison between the Black organizations on campus and Rutgers administration. First, Civility plays a role because we have to work well with one another before we can effectively do anything for our community. And we also need civility in our dealings with the community so that we can solve the problems that are facing us.
I'm the president of the Rutgers University Student Assembly. In my dealings with the administration, I have to be careful now, what I do and what I say. I want to be their friend so I can get stuff done, but I also want to do what's right for the student body. At what point do I have to stop being their friends and tell them this is what the student body wants?
I'm president of the Interfraternity Council here at Rutgers University. We have over 50 chapters on campus, over half of which are culturally based. There's a stigma that exists about fraternity men and sorority women, that they're just here to party, have something to do on the weekends. When in fact, in last year alone, we did over 30,000 hours of community service. We have one event in particular, Dance Marathon. Last year, they raised $378,000.
As an RA living in the dorms with Rutgers students, I find that the most civil way to resolve roommate conflicts comes in me sharing my personal experiences. As soon as the issue is out, then communication can happen, and then the mediation happens without me really being involved.
I'm an American Jew.
And I'm an Arab Muslim. We're Rutgers Shalom Salam, and we aim to bridge the gap between Jews and Arabs on campus and elsewhere.
There's discussions on campus, interfaith dialogues, this and that dialogues, and it's just people talking about how they're different through community service. We want to get them acting. We'll work together to make our community a better place, and in doing so, we'll learn more about each other's culture and each other as people.
The Center for Social Justice is here to support lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender students and their allies. We do education and programming for the broader community around issues of sexuality, gender identity, and gender expression. We help folks to speak to each other with the intent of being heard and listen to each other with the intent of hearing, and really have honest dialogues around real issues.
We're going to be using Rutgers for the next couple of years as a kind of a laboratory.
Project Civility isn't an end product. It's the beginning of what we hope to be something much bigger.
So, as you can see, civility crosses a lot of different lines, cultural lines, sexual identity lines. it's really, it really boils down to how we interact with each other. So, most people agree, that civility, like we said, it's complex, it's a positive thing. It's related to ethics and courtesy and so on. But why is it important? What makes it important to us? The reason is it impacts how we are with ourselves, and more importantly, how we engage with others. When it boils down to, the way we treat others is an important measure of how successful we are. You can have limited success by bullying and running people over, but you're going to have a higher measure of success by treating people respectfully and earning their respect. And it's important to be able to do that even with people that we don't like, or we don't get along with as well. Because wherever you go, whatever you do, you're gonna run into people that are very different from you, that you don't that may have a different attitude or a different opinion, and that's okay, because we're all different. It's a matter of learning how to have a respectful dialogue with them. So all right, other areas that where civility is a problem. What do you guys think of civility online? You think there's a problem there? Anybody can chime in.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There is. Civility on the internet is not often found. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It can be very impersonal. You can hide behind a fake name or an avatar, and you can pretty much portray yourself as however you want. But you got to remember that on the other end, that there's a real person on that other end, and they have real feelings. And it's okay to get into a discussion and a disagreement. Discourse is good. It's just, you've got to remember that not everybody's going to share your opinions, nor should they. It's okay to have different opinions and to disagree. Oftentimes I see a lot of comments that are out there just to hurt or to undermine people, or people post offensive images just to get a rise out of somebody. Again, I think if you wouldn't do that in person, you shouldn't do it online. We don't consider the real feelings of the person on the other end of that. My last bullet here says follow the golden rule and treat others as you would want to be treated. There's a platinum rule too, if you guys may or may not have heard of. And the platinum rule says to treat others as they would like to be treated, meaning that we need to get to know other people and respect the way they want to be treated, because it may not be the same as the way you want to be treated. So we need to take the time to get to know each other. This is just a good little thing to remember. When you're online, before you post, ask yourself these few questions. Is it kind? Is it necessary? True? And does it improve the silence? Really think about what you're doing before you do it. Again, if you don't think you would do it in person, then you really need to stop and check yourself and say, is this something I should be putting my name on or putting out online in front of everybody? And again, just like Travis was saying, if you got any comments or anything you want to interject, please feel free. I hate to be lecturing, so to speak. This book was published in 2002 by PM Forney. He gives us 25 rules for civility. And I'm just going to kind of breeze through these. We're not going to hit all of them, but pay attention, acknowledge others, think best, listen, be inclusive, speak kindly, don't gossip, give praise, respect no. That's a message that for some reason in 2022 still needs to be reinforced. Respect the no, respect others' opinions, mind your body, be agreeable, rediscover silence, respect other people's time and their space, apologize when it's necessary, assert yourself when it's necessary, avoid personal questions, care for your guests, be a considerate guest, think before asking for a favor, don't complain idly, give constructive criticism and accept it too, respect the environment, and don't shift responsibility and blame, own it. Out of those 25 rules, there are a few that I think are really important that I think we need to talk about a little bit. One is paying attention to others. That's a sign of respect. That's a sign of showing that, letting somebody know that, hey, you think they're worthy. You honor them and you recognize their place as a human. And you need to pay attention to yourself. You need to recognize how you are, and how you react to things and how you are around other people. A lot of times, if we don't pay attention to our own actions, we're not seeing how we might be negatively impacting something, or how we may take a very negative demeanor, a negative attitude. So always check yourself, kind of, think about how you're going to answer something before you answer it. Think about how you're standing when you're dealing with something, how you're presenting yourself. All those things are really important when you're interacting with other people. And again, it's very important when you're a leader and when you're leading your chapter. You're trying to get people to do things to better your chapter. As officers, it's not like you're their managers, so you can't come across roughshod and bossy. You've got to figure out, make sure that you're presenting yourself as, hey, we're all on the same team, I need your help, and enlist them that way. Something related to this is listening carefully. This is something that a lot of people lack. If you don't pay attention and you don't listen carefully, you're gonna miss a lot of important things, and you may misread the situation. I think of my dad. He's lost a lot of his hearing. He's got hearing aids, but he still only picks up like 20 or 30% of a conversation. So he can't hear, and I see how much he makes mistakes in what's being discussed and what he hears or what he thinks he hears. On the same token, I have somebody else I know that hearing's fine, but they don't really listen when they're talking to somebody. And I almost feel like they're in the same situation as my dad, because I sit there and on the outside listening to the conversations, and one person's talking about one thing, and the person that's supposed to be listening is already thinking about how he's going to answer, or wants to shift the conversation back to them, and it's like they can't hear. So it's really important to be present, pay attention. Don't sit there and worry about how you're going to respond. Just listen to what the other person's saying. And then something that I do, and part of it is, I think, in my training as a counselor, but you want to show that you're listening through nonverbal behaviors. There's all sorts of little things that you can do. Lean in to show that you're interested and you're attentive to what they're saying. Ask questions, let the person finish what they're saying, but ask a question on it. Parrot it back, reflect it back, okay, so what you're saying is this. And in that way, you show that you're involved and that you value what they're saying, that you're interested in their message. So listening is a skill that we all need to really continually work on. All right, gossiping and talking bad about others. I'll own this one. There are times, I just can't help myself, and I'll blurt out something, with negative or something. Hey, we all do it. But you want to try to reduce it. You want to try to reduce the trash talk. This gives us some suggestions what to do if you're in the presence of gossip or trash talk. You can leave, you can remain silent, say something positive to change the track of the subject, or confront the person and say you're not comfortable discussing this. Again, it goes back to the very first thing, pay attention to yourself. Look at how you're coming across, because make sure you're not the one that's igniting that trash talk or that gossip. And if you notice yourself going down the road, then what you need to do is incorporate some of those things with yourself. Consciously think, I'm just going to shut my mouth now. Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. At the end of the day, we're all human. We're all learning. It's all a process. But we need to at least be taking the steps to think about these things, and only that way are we going to make things better, within our local chapters, and eventually within our communities and society as a whole. All right, this one I really think is important. It's one of the top things: respect others' opinions. All right. I've said this from the beginning. We come from different places. We have different cultures, different sexes, different experiences, different likes, different dislikes. It'd be boring if we all liked and did the same thing and wanted to be exactly the same. But we have to respect each other's opinions. I have seen over the years, especially the last 6 or 8 years, used to be people could have a political discussion and take a side and discuss the actual issues from different viewpoints. Because again, when you boil it down and you look at different things, it doesn't matter which side you're on. There's going to be some things that may work and some things that don't work, and you may be more interested in the opinions of one side versus the other. Doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you wrong. But too many times now you see friendships breaking up because somebody takes a different opinion or has a different experience. And I think that's really sad when it gets down to I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. It shows a certain lack of ability to have discourse and a positive dialogue. Because if you can't talk about things and you can't disagree about things, how are you going to learn, or how are you going to maybe eventually change an opinion? I think we've gotten to the point in the world as a whole where we feel like to be justified, we have to have people agree with us. And if they don't agree with us, then we need to get rid of them. So really look at other people's opinions and respect them for what they are. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to like them. And you can just agree to disagree and go on from there. All right, back to Mary's presentation. Let's talk about time. It's important to respect people and their time. If you value your own time, others will also do the same. you want to be respectful. If you can't make an appointment, you want to call and cancel. If you can't be on time to a scheduled event, like a class or a job, notify someone. If you can. I realize there's stuff in the world. You're on your way to work and you get a flat tire. You may not be able to give long advance notice, but we've all got cell phones nowadays. We can make a quick call and say, hey, I'm not going to make it. I had this problem. And let people know. You want to schedule your day, appropriately. You don't want to overschedule yourself. You don't want to be an airline and book more passengers than you have seats just in case. You want to make sure that you can make the appointments that you set, that you'll be on time for them. And it's really important to schedule yourself that way. I lost my train of thought. And in terms of scheduling things, if you're even in a volunteer organization like Phi Theta Kappa, I've had a lot of times where I've had students promise to be somewhere and not show up without a word. And these are student leaders. So again, you guys need to always make sure that you're looking at yourself and how you're presenting yourselves in those terms. And if you make a commitment, you need to do everything you can do to keep that commitment. That shows respect for yourself and that shows respect for others. It's not a fair thing to make a commitment and have people rely on you and then you kind of let it go. Again, I know there's situations in life where it's out of your control, but a lot of times it's not totally out of your control. It's a matter of planning, and you really want to make sure that that you're willing to do what you need to do. And sometimes you have to sacrifice the really cool thing because you made a commitment and now you're stuck. But that's part of the payoff. And I think you'll be much more successful working that way. All right, and finally, we want to respect other people's space. Everybody, again, culturally, and there's a lot of different things that go into personal space. People have a different amount of closeness that they're willing to accept. Some people call personal spaces territory. And so you really want to make sure that you respect that territory. Don't just walk into somebody's room or at their desk at work. I have an open door in my office most of the time. And for the most part, people are very, around me are pretty respectful. They'll, even though the door's wide open, they'll knock and kind of put their head around the corner, but I've had occasions where people just kind of walk right in, and I'm on the phone or I'm in the midst of something and, it's just kind of like, hey, I'm here. So we want to respect everybody's space, and then be mindful about how you touch people in a conversation and in business settings. It's gotten to be really an important consideration these days. Not everybody's comfortable with touch. If you know somebody, that's one thing. But you always want to ask first. Phi Theta Kappa used to be really big on the hugs. Back when I was a chapter member, that was they call us the hug club on campus. Because that's how we greet each other. Is through hugs. And when you went to conventions, you're meeting people, and it's not a handshake, it's a hug. That's changed over the years just because of certain things. And you always ask, know what other people are comfortable with, and do that. We kind of do that with our inductions. We give people a choice. Do you want a handshake, a hug, or just a fist bump or a nod of the head? You know, so be mindful about that. All right, and then so what can we do to increase civility? I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I want to shift and take a little poll with you guys. So let me stop the share of that. Give me a second as I reset. All right. All right, so we're going to do a little Kahoot again. So little poll on civility. So get your phones ready. And you can either use the game pin or the QR code. Looks like it's slowing down. That must be close to everybody. So this is just kind of a poll to kind of get an idea of how you guys look at certain things that are considered important aspects of civility. So we're gonna start. So call this always, sometimes, or never. So I want to know, we're going to give you a prompt, and I want you to check that you always do it, you sometimes do it, or you never do it. Oh, I forgot about this piece. First, type in now that we've talked a little bit more about civility. If you've changed your idea, or if it's the same, type in what you think civility is. All right, and there we made our own word cloud. Respect. Cool. This is my first Kahoot. I'm really excited. All right, so now the poll. Do you return your shopping cart back to the store in the designated area of the parking lot? Do you do that always, never, or sometimes? So I see a whole bunch of people that do it always. Some people don't never do it, but there 21% of you picked sometimes. The brave person that will tell us who they are that does it sometimes. Why only sometimes? What makes you do it sometimes and not others?
I'm completely honest, and the only reason I said sometimes is because more than half the time I do it, but if where the cards are, if it's where I can see it, then I return it. If I can't find it, I'm not gonna go around the whole parking lot to find it. So I just do it, even though it's not my job. Like there's someone that has a job for it, just because it's where it goes. It belongs. Just the kindness of my heart, I guess.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
always park close to the shopping cart return. So that when I pull into the parking lot, I find that parking place. So I don't have to worry about walking all over the place. I know where my car is and I know where I can return the cart.
Okay. So a lot of times the idea of civility is whether it's convenient at that time for us or not. And that's something to think about, whether it, do we want to base civil acts, and you mentioned that, that somebody's job to get the carts and stuff to a certain extent, but this, prices in the store would go down if they didn't have to pay somebody to run around the parking lot to pick up those carts and stuff, if we took them back in, which is why places like Aldi have the little, you put a quarter to use the cart, and the only way you get your quarter back is if you bring you bring the cart back up to the front. So let's kind of consider the thought of convenience and in deciding whether you're going to act in a civil manner or not. Let's look at the next one. You arrive on time for events. Oh, that's pretty close to being split, sometimes and always. You guys ever hear the rule that if you're on time, you're late?
Yes,
My-
absolutely.
my dad used to always tell me that. You're on time means you're late. What So I want to ask somebody that picked always on time. How do you make sure that you're always on time?
For example, I make time to leave whatever I am and reach my destination with enough time for me to arrive early, not on time.
Gotcha. Okay.
As you
And
said earlier, Tulio, it's the planning and organization that's key for me. So proper planning and staying on top of my plan.
okay, cool. For the people who pick sometimes, what are some of the instances that you find yourself where you're not on time for events? And are there events that you're more likely to be late for than others?
I'll answer. I couldn't do the poll. I'm sorry. I'm actually driving right now. I apologize. But when it's just me, I'm always on time. But coordinating 5 chapters and all these individual personalities, especially those who think that, arriving late is making some type of wonderful statement or something of that nature. That makes it really difficult for me to be on time when I have to deal with 10, 20, 30, 40 other people. But if it's just me, I arrive early because like you said, on time is late. So I like to be early for everything. So when it's just me and I'm in control of getting there, then I'm on time. But as you know, I coordinate 5 chapters. So so those are the times that I'm late, and I'm not happy about it either, but I can't, it's the more people you have, the more difficult it is to get somewhere on time.
Yeah, I will agree with that. It is difficult to herd kittens sometimes. So, okay, cool. Let's go on to the next one. You look for ways to make others feel included. Right. So most of you do. And as Phi Theta Captains, I'm not surprised. If somebody's willing, on the sometimes, what times don't you try to make others feel included? What causes that?
It could just be recognition. You know, if you're focused on where you are and what you're doing, you sometimes don't survey who's around you and what their needs are. So that would be the sometimes. If you're not looking at where you are and paying attention to your surroundings, you might not see someone sitting by themselves feeling secluded or whatever. So that might be the sometimes.
Okay, which would go back to that one rule of paying attention to others and yourself. You know, recognizing that. I find it I find it in groups, especially again when, you know, I'd like to try to tie some of this back to your chapters and things that you can think about when you're working with your members and your groups is, you know, I sit back a lot of times at like when we do an orientation for new Phi Theta Kappa members or having meetings, you know, with new people. I tend to look for somebody that's kind of sitting off by themselves, and make a point to try to include them. And I've gotten some of my best members that way, you know, and because sometimes people just are a little shy or surveying the situation, don't really feel comfortable yet. You know, and if you don't open the door for them, and if you don't make those people feel included, you have the potential of losing a really good person for your group. So I would urge you to kind of, again, you know, be aware of the people around you, and make a point to, you know, find that lone person or that person that's kind of sitting off to the side or, you know, hanging out in a corner by themselves, and engage them. And make them feel included, and you're gonna see that you're gonna have somebody that's willing to do things and help your chapter. All right, next one. Okay, this is where you avoid talking or texting on your cell phone with others. So you always avoid it, or you sometimes avoid it, or you never avoid texting or talking. It's kind of a weird way to lay out the question. Okay. There are more in the sometimes category. I'll own this too. You know, I'm sometimes only sometimes avoid talking or texting. There are times that I get distracted or fall into that that category. Anybody have a particular instance when you feel like you just can't avoid it, that's just the way it is? So what's a situation where it just sometimes, what would make it different that from one time between the next for somebody?
Well, I know when we were at this last conference in this past weekend, you know, if as an advisor, if you have students out there and they text you, you can't just ignore it. You might want to, but you just really can't. So if you're in a group and you're like, I have to address this. So, you know, because of the responsibilities that you have, you may feel like you have to. And then the other thing is, you don't want to leave somebody hanging. That's just rude. Never mind, you're talking to people in a group with you right there, so you're going to be rude to those people. So I think it's how you approach it.
Yeah, I would think there are ways that you can civilly do this. You excuse yourself, from the group, or if you're with a particular one person, you say, excuse me, this is emergency. I have this, I have that, I'm on call at work. There are instances where you need to, but there are, arguably there are times to where you can just put that phone away and and the world won't end. So something to think about. All right, next question. You're careful to avoid bumping another vehicle when you open your car door. All right, I gotta ask, who's the sometimes? And why sometimes? Not gonna own it. Okay. I will tell I'll tell you, just I think a lot of times I always do it, but part of that is because I don't want to ding my door. Um, so there's some selfishness in that. But too often, you see a lot of times people don't respect other people's property. It's also respecting their space. Drives me crazy, and all you guys have the same experience. You park in a parking lot at a college with a lot of people. It drives me crazy when I go out and somebody's parked so close or right on the line that, there's no way you can open up your car door to get in. You're having to crawl through the other side or through the back. And you just wonder again how a person's not noticing the space around them. And I realize I'm running late to class, want to be on time, want to do things, but we really need to tie all these things together to really have a civil society. All right, I'll move on.
You mean you can't be civil when it's convenient?
That's right. You express your gratitude by saying thank you. All right. Anybody want to talk about their answers? Why would somebody say thank you sometimes and not other times?
I know from working at Longhorn, I was a manager, and sometimes it was not the right answer, but it was difficult to remember sometimes to say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You get caught up in working so hard and yeah.
I can see that. We get caught up with what we're doing. Sometimes we're rushing around. We're not taking the time for the general politeness. The other piece of that is a lot of people don't they think they're saying thank you in different ways too, and sometimes it doesn't come across that way. It's sort of like, people don't say you're welcome a lot of times now. When you do say thank you, they say, oh, that's okay, or no problem, or instead of that proper response of you're welcome. So again, this ties back to being in the moment, where we're all rushing around, we're working hard, but again, sometimes we need to get in the practice of always thinking about how we're presenting ourselves and how we're coming across.
And I think sometimes people expect you, what you're doing, they expect you to do that. So why should I say thank you if you're doing what's expected of you? I think it's the attitude that some people take.
I get what you're saying. So because it's your job, so why should I thank you?
Right, that type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, which you know, I know somebody that was like, yeah, well, I'm not giving my kid an allowance because that's supposed to be his job, or I'm not telling them they're doing a, you know, I'm not congratulating them or rewarding them for getting A's in school because that's what they're supposed to do. You know, and that's kind of a problem because, you know, as humans, we need that that acknowledgement and that encouragement. And you know, so again, it's thinking these things through and thinking about, hey, how would I feel on the other end of that? You know, I do my job. Occasionally it's nice to have a thank you for what I've done. So
Julia,
yes.
yeah. My son is 16 and sometimes I will tell him, I need you to go take care of this, or don't forget to take out the trash or something. Then after he does it, I thank him and he says, what are you thanking me for? You told me to do it. You know, he just irritated when I thank him and I said, yes, but you did it. And I appreciate that you did it. So I'm thanking you for that.
And I think that's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny on both ends. You know, but I think you know, you continue doing that, and eventually that will instill in him that courtesy and make it a common thing. Cool. All right. Let's see. You monitor your tone, volume, and word choice in all communications. Okay, that's almost split. So why the split? And you know, are the people that pick, sometimes are we focusing more on tone, volume, word choice, or all the above?
I'm not sure how everyone else is looking at that, but I thought I was really curious about this because I'm not sure if everyone can always do that, because when something is too much, whatever too much is for ourselves, we're not, those are the moments we lose awareness just a bit because we're overwhelmed. So that's why I put sometimes. I would love to hear what somebody has to say, how they took the question for the always.
Okay. So you always want to answer?
I would like to respond here, if that's okay.
I don't know how everyone
Can you
else.
hear me?
It's coming out like staticky.
Can
Try
you hear
again.
me
It's
now?
starting to get, yeah, that's better.
Okay.
I just wanted to say something on this point. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I'm a returning student to a community college. I'm approaching 50 years old, and I've had an opportunity to have experiences in life that put me in leadership positions. So now I find myself in this particular area having to really monitor myself very closely, because in all those other situations, I was dealing with court boards or nonprofit boards or other things that were business related. And I have to constantly keep reminding myself that these are volunteers. These are students with other things on their mind. And, you know, I have to constantly monitor my tone and my word choice. And so this is definitely a question.
You cut off there at the end, Cynthia, of what you were saying.
I'm so sorry. My internet must have become unstable. I apologize.
That's all right. But I think I get the general gist of what you're saying. It's and I mentioned something similar earlier, you know, as an officer on a team like this, you're not a manager, you're not a boss, and it's, you've got to be careful not to come across that way. Because you want people to not feel like they're being berated or pushed into doing something, because this isn't their job. They're volunteering. They're hoping to get something out of it, and they're hoping to give something back. So I agree, you have to be very cognizant of how you're coming across. Otherwise you're liable to offend somebody. But I think it was Anisha, like she was saying, it is hard to always be right on task with that. But you have to, it goes back to being aware of yourself and how you're coming across, kind of monitor that constantly monitor yourself so that hey, I'm starting to cross a line here that maybe I shouldn't. Sandra, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I'm an advisor and at FSW, and I have to monitor how I reply to students, especially those who are coming with excuses about why assignments are late and stuff. And I have to find myself going back to the top, especially if they are sick or give me some excuse like that. I have to go back and say, I hope you're doing all okay, but I still need an assignment and so on, without jumping right in. So I have to think about that tone also, even of emails that you send out.
Yeah, and I will tell you, as an advisor, the students I advise, in like a group like Phi Theta Kappa versus students that I may teach in a class, it is a different dynamic, because in that classroom I am more of a manager, and there are deadlines, and they are essentially getting paid by their grade, so to speak. So you're there is that transaction is more of a business work transaction. Whereas, as an advisor in Phi Theta Kappa, I'm trying to build leadership. I'm trying to help students grow into those leaders. So I'm less directive. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm less bossy, I guess, is the way I want to put it. I do let them know, hey, I was expecting this and I'm disappointed that I didn't get that. Let's try again, let's do this. But I know I frustrate some of my officers sometimes, because I don't readily go to get them off the board or get them out of here because they're not doing the job. I'm like, well, let's work with them and see if we can get them where they need to be. So, it's a different dynamic. So you got to be, you got to really think about what the relationship is and how you need to present yourself. All right, let's go to the next one. You always place trash in the appropriate receptacle. All right, mostly always. Is the sometimes, does that relate to recycling? Or is that just convenience of a trash can being in the area? Nobody wants to say. Okay. I thought of rewording this question, because the appropriate receptacle, for some people is, you put recyclables in a recyclable container and trash in a trash container. And do you always do the separation? And I imagine that's usually where there's a split more often than I know I always put trash in a trash can or something. I don't always put recyclables in a recyclable because there's not one there or something. So yeah, okay.
That's how it is for me. If I don't know that there's a recycling bin, then I don't I don't put it in the recycling bin. Once I'm aware, like, oh, this place does recycle, then I put it in the recycling bin.
Yeah, if I know there's a bin, or if I know I'm gonna come across a recyclable bin, I'll hold it until I get there. I'll carry it over to that area. But if I don't, if I'm out somewhere, I'm not going to carry around a plastic bottle until I get back to my car and get home to put it in the recyclable bin. All right, next one. You don't use or post comments, offensive images, or say anything online that you would not say in person. Basically, you're not a troll online. So this is another one of those questions that worded kind of weird, but yeah, I always make a point not to post comments that are offensive or say anything that I wouldn't say in person online. I think, again, I don't hide behind an avatar or a different name, so people know it's me that's out there, and I present myself just as I would in public. So I think it's important. Does anybody have a comment in there on the sometimes when it's okay to post something that's offensive? Or okay, all right, I will move on then. Last one. You value the opinion of others.
What does trolled mean?
Troll is a term that they use online for people who are just out there trying to instigate and make people feel bad and bullying.
Thanks. I'm not really a social media kind of person.
Like the troll under a bridge from fairy tales. All right, this one's almost split. So can somebody tell me on either side what makes you always, or what makes you? I'm curious about the nevers. Actually, why do you never value the opinion of others? There's only one person. Was that maybe a mistake? Would somebody in the sometimes be willing to say why they sometimes value others' opinions and why other times they don't?
I value the opinions of people that are respectful. Like, I won't value like a negative opinion. Like, sure, there's oh, I can have a negative opinion about a topic, but like negative meaning like a malicious opinion, I won't value that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, same. Like, some people will just be saying anything to be saying it, they won't be having any sort of like ground to what they're saying.
Okay, I see. You guys are looking at that more literally. When I look at valuing the opinion of others, and maybe it's just the way I interpret it, I think in terms of I value other people. I value that people have other opinions, and I value their right for that opinion. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I think it's important that they have the right to have their opinion.
So everybody's entitled to their own opinion, whether you agree with it or not.
Basically, that's right. You're entitled to your opinion, whether you're wrong or not. But yeah, so that's kind of the way I look at it. All right, cool. So that was just kind of a little gauge to kind of see how people think, and maybe make you guys think a little bit deeper of some of this. These are some basic things, but when you think of things that you do every day in life and how that relates to to being civil and living in a society with others. It's good to have that in the back of your head. All right, let me switch back and we'll finish up the PowerPoint. Do stop share. Set down. All right, so the screen before we went to the poll was what can we do to increase civility. So within your own group and your chapters, you enforce standards in your group or places you work. So you have standards. We are an honor society. There are a certain set of rules and a certain set of certain structure to which we should present ourselves and to those ideals that we should aspire to. So we need to enforce those, and we need to have people take those seriously. Educate your workforce or your team. Education is paramount. It's if people don't know, if they don't understand what the rules are, then they're destined to fail. So you want to make sure that the people know what's expected of them, so that they can develop a successful relationship with you, with your team and such. Communicate positively and carefully. Again, monitoring how you come across. You don't want to be negative when you approach somebody. There are ways to communicate disappointment, unhappiness without being critical, overly critical or personal. And most of all, lead by example. If you don't walk it, people aren't gonna buy it when you tell them they need to do things in a certain way. You need to model that behavior for them. All right. And let's see. Right, so my PowerPoint not moving. Oh, because I left it small. Okay, so this I just wanted to share this with you. Valencia, we have a group, an initiative called the Peace and Justice Institute. Thank you. And they look at a lot of different things, from diversity to how we interact. They deal with a lot of different things. And they developed these principles of Valencia that Valencia has incorporated and uses for how we treat each other. It's our principles for respect and community building. And and as you can see on here, very, very similar to the rules that we went over on civility. Listen deeply. I like to create an advice-free zone. Give space for unpopular answers. Again, this goes back to people's opinion. Everybody having an opinion, and it's and I value their right to it. Respect silence. You saw me do that a couple of times when people didn't want to respond to a question. This is a good list, and I think this is something that you should consider. May not fit verbatim for your chapter, but you may want to come up with an actual outline of, hey, this is how we're going to treat each other in a meeting, in an officer meeting, and as a group, and set up these standards so that when you do meet, there's less conflict and less confrontation. Or confrontation is not a bad thing, but when it's aggressive confrontation or it's negative confrontation, you don't want that. So. And finally. Yep, I think that's where we're at now. So, do you guys have any questions? Eduardo?
Yes, Dr. Tulio. Just to go from one of the points you mentioned before, enforcing standards, and another comment you mentioned before that sometimes you think you're not as strict with your officers that do not show up. So I just wanted to ask a question to all advisors here. How would you handle officers that after being elected, they stop showing up? And by showing up, I mean not coming to meetings and not participating in any activities or projects. How will you handle that situation?
Can I share how we've taken care of that problem?
Please.
Our administration decided that in order for students to wear the blue and gold cords to the graduation ceremony, they can buy them if they want to. But they just can't wear them to the graduation ceremony until they have completed 15 hours of service within PTK. And then we buy them for them because they have earned them. And those who have already bought them wear them at graduation. So we are requiring 15 hours of service to be able to wear those to graduation. That has increased our meetings, participants, and committee participants by quite a lot. I have contacted the Phi Theta Kappa International Office and asked them to create a product that only advisors can buy so that we can buy something for those people who are doing this instead of the cords, because the cords, if you buy them, you should be able to wear them. But this is something that the administration did to help us get volunteers.
Thank you, Renee.
Cool. I want to clarify something, Eduardo. You know, when I said I'm not as strict, it's not that I let them get away with that forever. I'm not quick to automatically say they've got to go. I want to give them an opportunity to correct themselves and go from there. If somebody continues if they're just flat out aren't showing up, aren't contributing, that's detrimental to the group. And and if it's hurting the group, then I would do something right away. And actually it's within, most of your bylaws should probably all read the same thing. Technically you as officers are the ones that need to make that decision. It's not really the advisor's job to get rid of somebody. My job when I say I'm more understanding is I'm advising my officers, let's wait and let's work with that person before we jump to removing them. But ultimately it's your decision as an officer team. You have the power through the bylaws.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other advisors want to chime in? Renee, were you about to say something?
Yes, I was going to say I have a 3-minute video that we just presented to our during our wellness conference we had for our students, faculty, and staff. And it is 3 minutes, but it's worth it if we have time. I don't know if you're interested or not.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, I don't think we're
can you share? Can you let me share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
I think it'll get everybody. It's good. It's really good. It goes along with what you're saying about kindness.
Great. All right, you are a co-host.
Okay.
I'm going to stop my share.
Can everybody see the guy on the screen?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh. Okay. How about now?
Still no.
Okay, what am I doing wrong?
Are you picking the screen you want?
Wait, there we go. Hold up. You're right. As if I've never done this before.
Details.
There we go. There it
go.
is. Now you got it?
Yep, I see it.
Is there supposed to be sound? Not hearing a sound.
Yes. Oh. The sound doesn't really, it's just music, so it's okay. Okay.
Life insurance.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for letting me share that.
Sure. It's a nice video, and it does.
What that is.
It does go right into really kind of what I wanted to end my presentation with is just, you know, at the end of it all, it's just be kind to one another. Life's too short, and you know, if we can't take the time to be kind and take care of one another, then, you know, I think we're wasting our time. But that's it for me. Are we ready for
Thank
the
you.